Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna move into some thoracic spine extension work. So I'm gonna have you join me on your belly. You're gonna come down. You'll have your elbows out in front of you. Know that you can play with this at different angles as well. So if you just did that previous drill and you know, okay, there's this section of my thoracic spine that I really struggle with, I might want to bias that section. I highly recommend doing so. The way that you can do that is basically the closer that my elbows are to me and the higher I'm propped up, the more I'm going to bias my lower spine. The more that I shift my elbows away from me and the more of my abdomen that I paste on the ground, the more I'm going to bias higher up in my spine. So if I have my elbows out like this, I'm going to be kind of biasing just kind of between at the bottom of my shoulder blades. If I slide my arms out even more and I paste more of myself on the ground, now here I'm going to be biasing the top part of my thoracic spine way up high and kind of the upper part of my shoulder blades. So you can adjust this and bias it based on where you feel you need it most, based on that previous exercise that we did. I'm gonna go right in the middle just to kind of demonstrate the middle ground. So instead of being way out here or way up here, I'm gonna find kind of that area around the lower part of my shoulder blades, which means I'm gonna find myself right about here. So what we're gonna do when we're here is I'm gonna try and take the part of my abdomen or the part of my chest that's not touching the ground, the front side of me, and I'm gonna pull it up towards the ceiling into extension, and I'm gonna kind of wiggle my elbows around such that I feel like I have a good amount of extension and I'm maxed out there. So I'm as extended as I can be. Please be conscious in making sure that you're not just borrowing from your lumbar spine, especially if you're hypermobile or especially if you have a very stiff thoracic spine. Often people who have a very stiff thoracic spine will rely excessively on their lumbar spine, and then when they do work like this, they'll be all up in their lumbar spine, kind of like this, and they're like, oh, well, this is easy. I want you to feel it where we're trying to kind of funnel the effort. So like I said, for me, that's kind of right between my shoulder blades, at the base of my shoulder blades. So when I press myself up, I'm only pushing from that point upwards. So I'm only affecting the top part of my spine. I'm not changing the lower part of my spine. And another way that you can help keep your lower spine out of it is if you take your tailbone and think about dropping it under you ever so slightly to bias a little bit of lumbar flexion and keep you out of extension if you need. So like I said, you want to feel like you're maxed out there, and then we're going to keep you here for a little bit. Now, we're going to do some pails and rails here, and what that's going to look like, and I'm going to come out of this position just to demo this for you and give you a bit of a visual. You're going to stay here the entire time though. So what that's going to look like is while you're down there, you've got your elbows propped up. We're going to try and load the front side tissue, so the tissue that exists on the front and the sides, to try and drive down out of this position. However, I need you to actually stay extended the entire time. So this is one of those scenarios where you have to kind of tap into that mind-muscle connection, because I don't actually want to see you move at all. I don't actually want to see you flex, but that's your intent. Your intent is to drive flexion without moving. So when I watch you do this, it should look like a statue. You should look like you are not moving at all, yet your elbows are driving down and they're trying to drive down towards your hips, and you want to feel kind of front side working or front side tissue working. You might feel some abs, you might even feel some lats. Then when we reverse, you're actually going to try and push your elbows away from you and kind of pry yourself further into extension, or open up or lengthen that front side even more using the back side tissue. So then you're trying to use those little muscles that live on either side of your spine, or like your back straps if you're a hunter, and you want to use that stuff to try and pull you deeper into extension. So the work then shifts from the front and driving the elbows down to the back and driving the elbows away. Now, like I said, that's going to look a little bit different depending on what part of your thoracic spine you're biasing right now, but that should be a little bit personalized based on what your findings were in that first exercise that we did in the class. So, like I said, we're going to dive into it here. We're going to think about driving our elbows down towards our hip to try and make that front side stuff work, but you are going to stay fully extended the entire time as you do so. So you're going to keep that chest up. You're not going to move anywhere at all, but give me 20% effort driving down. and then increase to 40, 60. You can even think about drawing your sternum down, but don't move it. 80. And your greatest, safest, pain-free effort, and holding that. Trying to drive those elbows through the floor and holding that for another 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, get ready to reverse, 1. Then pull your chest higher up towards the ceiling. Really try and bias it to that specific part of your spine. And you can even think about pushing your elbows or your hands away from you to help you get there. But see if you can find those little muscles that live on either side of that part of your spine and squeeze and hold for another 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, if you can stay there, stay here with me. See if you can breathe here. Try not to move. If you absolutely have to, you can. But we're going to see if we can get one more round here. Now, if this is totally new to you, again, feel free to scale the intensity to whatever intensity you need. If you need to stay at 60, stay at 60. That's totally fine. We're going to take another big breath in. Chest stays up. And we're going to start driving down with those elbows. You can even think about pulling your sternum down, but don't move. 20%. 40. 60. 80. And your greatest, safest, pain-free effort, whatever that is for you. And holding that. Trying to maintain your breath. Don't hold your breath on me. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reverse, but try and funnel that work right into that part of your spine, whichever part of your spine you're biasing. For me, I'm trying to think, pull my sternum up towards the ceiling, trying not to change my low back, and really trying to squeeze that tissue on either side of my spine, in my upper spine, pressing my hands away from me and holding for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very good. Now you can slowly come out of it.